Hello.
Hi.
I
There's
feel
always a
like
delay from the intro to the video, so I'm always like,
it's so weird. We're in vogue.
yeah, it just started raining.
I know.
Yeah.
Welcome everybody to Moment of Presence with Michelle, me from Moksha Grace Coaching, and
Krista, me. How is everyone doing today?
wow, there's a lot going on.
Yeah, I'm tired this week. I gotta tell you, there's so much
Oh,
going on that your girl is tired.
yeah,
But that's life. And some days are more tiring than others.
it's
And
also
we
Thursday.
proceed on.
Do you find that Thursdays are more tiring than the other days of the week?
You know what it probably is, honestly, is I would bet statistically a lot of people do say that Thursdays are tiring because you got the buildup of the week finally hitting its peak today. And you would think it would be Friday, but Friday you got a little adrenaline rush because it's almost the weekend,
Mm-hmm.
which counterbalances the exhaustion. So I would bet money. I bet if we ran some stats on that, that Thursdays I would probably bet are when people say they're the most tired.
Yeah, that's what I always have found when I looked at my energy level, like, when you're
Mhm.
planning stuff out and you're like, when are you the most creative? And
Sure.
Thursdays are always like, because Wednesday is like hump day, right? So everyone's like, oh, it's hump day. And they get excited because it's the middle of
Sure.
the week. Well, some people do. And then Thursday's kind of like that. Oh, but I still got 2 more days.
Yeah.
You know, but here's the thing. Should we be living life that way? Or we just look forward to whatever the day brings.
This is true. I think it's a delicate trap that one can get in because, I love the concept and the theory and the perspective that it's literally a miracle that we're all here. It's a miracle that we're having this conversation. So like why are we all stressed out about silly little jobs um when it's a miracle that we're here? And but at the same time we have to remember, yes, but we're still on a 3D planet with 3D roles. We're human beings that have to, make a living and all of that. So, it's a slippery slope to, well, I'm going to be a nomad and live off the land.
Well, interesting segue. Thank you. So we can bring this and talk about it more, but I do want to introduce the topic today. And this is going to be part of an ongoing series. And I've kind of broken it down thinking like a farmer. Uh, so if we think of January as our reset or tilling the soil, it would only make sense that February is going to be all about planting seeds. And, this is a big one because planting those seeds, when a farmer plants seeds, they're not yelling at the seed, where are you? Why aren't you growing? Why aren't you bigger? Why aren't you stronger?
Right.
Where's the fruit? It's a progression, and it's something that's supposed to happen naturally. And so yesterday, and what I was starting to tell you before we got started was, yesterday I asked, like, give me an interesting like topic, like give
Ask
me
two.
something. I asked the universe and God,
Uh,
and I had a session with a client last night, and this topic came about. And the more I thought about it, especially with things coming out in the world and new revelations and just things that are happening, I just think that this is a good time to talk about planting seeds. And so, today's topic is letting people grow in their own season. What does that mean? It means that many people are struggling with, do we push our ideas onto other people? Do we try to convince other people? You know, are we trying to manage what other people are thinking and seeing and believing? And honestly, kind of questioning their values. or what's a better word for that, judging their
Mm.
values. And I think that this is a big topic, most families, close relationships, but also in careers, clients, customers, leaders, your bosses. How many times do we come up with a good idea and why aren't they executing? Why isn't it happening? Versus leaving little subtle hints, aka seeds.
Mm-hmm.
And if I can prompt you to tell a little story, because you popped into my head with this, there was someone that you had to deal with where you had to plant little seeds to help them grow. You want to go into that a little bit more if you
I don't even know who you're talking about. Do you want to send a private message so I can give me a hint?
Sure, I can
I
do
mean,
that.
I feel like I've done that since I was a kid, so I mean, the options are endless, but who are you thinking of?
Yeah. Well, um
Oh. I mean, unfortunately that fruit didn't really that plant didn't sprout, but um yeah. Um well,
you
I'm gonna go with a different example.
okay.
Um I'll maybe touch on that one. But the one I thought you were talking about was when I probably 8 years ago, so a couple years into being vegan, which ironically I'm not anymore. But when I was vegan, I was so hell bent that like everyone in the house needed to be that way, and that's kind of like what kind of joke of vegans of like, oh, how do you know a vegan is a vegan? They're gonna tell you. I was the epitome of that. Like, I am going to try to get everyone around me to give
Yep.
up animal products. And it wasn't until I would make extra food, hoping that everyone would eat it. No one wanted any. And I'd push and push and push and push. And then finally, I was like, all right, I'm just going to make enough food for myself. Maybe one extra little plate for leftovers. I'm going to stop pushing it. And when I stopped pushing, is when all of a sudden it was like, oh, wow, Krista, that smells really good. Can I have some? Oh wow, this actually is really good. Can we have this, weekly? And then it became like one night a week we had a plant-based meal. Then it was two, then it was three. And then we were pretty much exclusively plant-based in our house for
Hmm.
a minute there. And then we all kind of hightailed it to the other end of the spectrum. But it wasn't until I let go,
Hmm.
started planting the seeds about it, that I really saw any difference in the people around me.
Yeah.
um, on the like work front, that looks like um, there was a gal who was uh, below me in the hierarchy, and she probably realistically wasn't the best fit for an ops role, but that's okay. We were making it work. And I had to kind of, plant seeds along the way of like, here's how you would do that, and here's how you could do this. And instead of pushing and pushing and pushing, it was, well, what do you think you should do in this situation? And it
Hmm.
was so funny because at first she was like horrified by this question and she thought I was like trying to trick her. And I was like, I'm asking to see if maybe it just kind of sits a little bit better to phrase it differently.
Hmm.
And so instead of just giving her the answer, I started saying, well, what do you think would be the route to take here? And she'd say what it was. And I go, perfect. That's exactly what I was going to suggest. Or she'd say something and I go, well, let's maybe think about this piece. What would you do if there was this, information involved?
Hmm.
Oh, well, in that case, I would do X, Y, Z. Perfect. Run with that.
Yeah.
And so part of it is also like learning what seeds you need to plant to have the most fruitful growth, I guess you could say.
And where, right? I mean, when you plant seeds, you have to know, like, okay, does this, whatever it's going to grow into, does it need sun, direct
Or,
sun, or a little bit of sun? Does it need shade? What is it? And so you have to know, like, when and where to plant the seed. And
yeah.
so I think the same thing goes for, these kind of questions, or this kind of, I don't want to say technique, but it's a way of being, right? So, I mean, I'm sure that there was a part of it that you actually learned more about that person, and
Mhm.
that they were probably raised differently. They experienced
Absolutely.
things that made them, you know, think differently or act differently, take action differently. And so I think the same, I know the same goes true for any relationship that you're building. You find a common connection, and then, which would be, in this fable, this analogy, it would be like the land, right? That's your common connection, your common ground. Haha. Excuse the pun. uh, and then you have to figure out where you're going to put those seeds, and then you've got to nurture it, but you're not going to yell at the seeds, force them to grow. You're not going to pull on the roots, because that's not going to make them grow
Mm-hmm.
more. You're
Mm-hmm.
not going to put them down. I mean, heck, I think that there's a science project in here somewhere where kids used to grow one plant and leave it with rock music, and another plant, leave it with classical music, and see which one grew, or they would talk to it nicely versus talk to it meanly, and
Absolutely.
see the difference in the growth. And so you can't force growth without damaging the soil. And great example of this is someone who's impatient, and they plant the seed, and then they go and they dig around it to see, is it starting to sprout yet? But you're actually damaging the progression.
Right. That's like with if there's any farmers out there, that's like with chickens. If you try to, like,
Mhm.
you may, when chickens are born, they peck at the shell until there's a little air hole, and then they keep pecking it away until they come out of the shell. Well, if you kind of check out what's going on, and they're only partially out of the shell, some people are like, "Oh, let me help it along." But what you're actually doing is you're not giving it a chance to soak up all the nutrients from the shell, from the yolk, and you can actually end up not allowing it to survive. Trying to not say the word that
Non
I'm supposed to say.
Unaliving.
Yeah, you unintentionally unalive it by accident because you're not giving it a chance to do what it naturally needs to do. And I think, that actually is a really interesting point. I think what we're ultimately getting to here is that, and I mean, we see this in a lot of places, but humans really separate themselves from nature a
Hmm.
lot.
Yeah.
And yet we are classified as animals. We're just really, really smart animals. But we're animals nonetheless. I mean, I'm sure we've all seen the pictures now of like our eyeball compared to, stuff out in nature, and our brain compared to the,
Hmm.
visual imagery of a walnut, and our veins compared to like river streams and stuff.
Hmm.
We are nature. What is nature really good at? Cycles, process,
Yeah.
following the same steps. Plant
Not
a seed,
forcing.
plant a seed, let it grow. Plant a thought, let someone run with it. But if we try to force anything, I can't think of a single thing in nature that you would force that actually goes well.
I can't think of anything either. You can try, right? Being that we have landscapers, it's our family business. You can try to direct a tree to grow in a certain
Sure,
direction, or correct the correction it's growing in, because, oh
sure,
no, it's touching the house. I want it to go the other way.
sure,
Yeah, it may work for a little bit, but ultimately that tree is going to go the way it wants to go.
sure. It's actually funny when you were saying your intro piece and you were saying you don't yell at a plant, come on, grow. I was thinking, well, I mean, I have seen where seeds aren't sprouting, and there might be somebody we know or a couple somebodies that are like, why isn't this sprouting? What the hell is going on?
Yep. Yep. I had the same in mind.
Did you?
So let's pause for a moment. If you're
Wait,
here, let us know. Put I want to grow, or put seeds in the comments. Let us know that you're here. Tell us where you're from. Are you from somewhere sunny? Are you from a rainforest? I don't know. Give us some information.
rainforest. Who's
I
joining us
don't
from a
know.
rainforest?
Let us know that you're here, whether you watch this live or you're watching it on replay. But definitely comment, share it out to someone who might need this. The key to this whole thing is planting the seed, dropping the hint, whatever, and then not expecting anything in return.
Yeah.
Let it go. And I know we talk about this almost every episode, but you gotta let it go. You gotta not expect anything in return. If you don't like how someone's acting, you can mention it, but is that gonna do anything? Or maybe getting curious and asking questions or showing compassion and just listening to them. Again, that's allowing the flow of the conversation to lead you to the answer versus tell me right now what's wrong. Um, because that's not going to work. Or trying to convince or push somebody to do something the way
Yeah.
you want them to do it, or think or believe the way you want them to.
Sure.
It's not going to happen because people, just like everything else in this world, grow in their own season, on their own time frame.
Yeah.
Just like the chicken and the egg.
Absolutely. And the second piece of this too is so we got plant the seed. We've got
Mhm.
let go of the expectation of anything.
Mhm.
That next step is be ready to receive what you've planted. So
Mhm.
for example, we were talking about this before the show. If you have a teenager who stays in their room, is like super, always doing something in their room, doesn't really hang out with the family, and you're constantly saying, come out and spend time with us, come on, come out and eat with us, we'll play a game, we'll watch a movie, whatever. And they finally do. And then your response to that is, oh, look who showed up. Oh, look who decided to join us. That is not a welcoming invite to receiving your, you know what that is? That is your seed has sprouted and you just chopped it with a machete. That's what
Right.
that is. You have to be ready to receive the difference. If you're in a relationship and you feel like you shouldn't have to ask someone to take out the garbage, and you bug and you bug and you bug, and then finally you say, you know what, fine, if you do, great, this is what it means to me, this is why it's important to me, but you decide what you want to do from here. You see that garbage start being taken out, same thing, don't be like, oh, look who finally decided to take the garbage out, or like be
Mhm.
mean to them because they're finally doing
Right.
what you said.
Or you just do it yourself and then they go, "No, no, no, let me take it out." And then you argue with them.
Yeah.
If you would have just done it, like, no, be gracious.
Yeah. Well, and be willing to receive what you're asking for, because a lot of this is asking for. Be willing to receive that, because if you don't, I mean, even I can think of a friend of mine who consistently has terrible follow through. Stop expecting. Then when they do start following through, I'm like, are they really though? Are they going to start following through? I don't know. Be willing to receive.
Right. I think that's beautiful because if you don't expect and you don't uh, wait for the outcome because uh, you've set your mind up for what you should expect
Hmm.
from the outcome or when the outcome's going to happen,
Hmm.
then you're just allowing, you're surrendering to the process, not surrendering as in you're losing the war. You're just surrendering to a natural process, and then that it's going to happen on its own, on the other person's own time, or when it's supposed to happen. And it's the same thing with God and universe. You can pray all you want, but you cannot dictate when God responds to you. And you can't judge God, the universe, whatever you believe it. You can't then judge what the higher life force has planned for you.
Sure.
It's all going to happen when it's supposed to.
Yeah.
And so it's that subtle shift in releasing the expectation, softening the control you thought you had, because you don't. You only have control of your response to what's happening. And then choose curiosity instead of pressure.
Yeah.
And going back to your example of the teenager, my mom was so good at this. I would be in my room, whether it was listening to music or just hanging out or just wanting some alone time. And she didn't say, come out here and hang out with me. Sometimes she did. But what worked even better was she would put something on that she knew I loved. So, back in the day, it was, Happy Days or 30 something or, all those old shows. She would put something on that she knew that we enjoyed watching together, and I'd hear it, and then I'd go out there on my own because I chose to. Not because she asked me and I should do it, but because there was something that brought us together. It was a connection. Again, find the connection, the common ground. And that's what she was really good at.
Yeah.
So, any other examples or any way you think you can apply this, or an example of how someone could apply this?
Yeah, I think given where we are kind of today as a society, I think the big kind of elephant in the room is people with different, you know, political thoughts than you. We're not going to get into ours. Just, where we've ended up in a society where if someone thinks differently from you, they're the enemy. It doesn't have to be that intense. If there's something that you feel really strongly about, it's dropping a seed, and if they are interested in hearing about it, they'll ask you. But you don't need to word vomit your thoughts and opinions onto other people. And you also don't need to take their thoughts and opinions to mean that they're the worst person in the world that you've ever seen in your life, even though you've known them for 10, 15, 20 years. All of a sudden, because you find out they have a certain political affinity, they're, the devil. It doesn't work like that. So, in those situations, plant a seed and then let it
Mm-hmm.
go.
Right.
Our political affiliations do not have to dictate our friendships and relationships and careers and all of that. I get on client calls all the time, and I'll hear political banter. They'll try to kind of integrate that into the beginning of our calls, and I just will kind of move on. I won't even move on from it, because it has nothing to do with what we're discussing on our
Right.
call. There's no, respectfully, I don't want to get into it because you never know where someone stands. So yeah, that's a perfect example of plant a seed and walk away. And by walk away, I mean just move on to the next topic of conversation.
Yeah. And what that can look like in real time, and I've actually done this,
Mhm.
is I'll just very strategically
Mhm.
place a book on the table. And if somebody is interested, they might pick it up and look at it. They might not.
Mhm.
My intention is, this is interesting here for anyone that's interested. It's not, did you read the book? Did you look at it? What was your favorite? That's
Mhm.
not the way to be. It's
Yeah.
just put it without any expectation. If someone picks it up, great. If they want to talk about it, cool. It might take them a while to digest it. You know, I think I know a lot of people have been on both sides of the coin of the world we live in. Maybe they haven't made the move to a different side. Maybe they're just on one perspective. And that's okay. When they shift, and that was the other thing I just wanted to touch on, when they do shift, when they do come around, kind of like the teenager coming out of their room, that's not when we allow our egos to chime in with the I told you so, I knew you'd come around. No,
Yeah.
we wouldn't have wanted to be treated that way. It's more of a
Cool. Do you
feeling
have any
of
questions?
welcome. Right. Do you have any questions? I know when I first went down this path, I had a lot of questions, or I wanted someone to kind of give me a little bit of a guide. You
Sure.
know, do you need anything? It's a lot to take in. Anything like that. But the I told you, or didn't I tell you this would happen, or didn't I? That's the ego talking. I was right and you were wrong. That's what it says to people. And I think that's what puts off a lot of people on, some of the commentators out there, I should
Yeah.
say. Any final thoughts? before we
You know
do
what?
a
I
little
think this is
briefing?
actually a good place for us to end today. I like the idea of this episode being shorter and sweeter. I think a little moment of presence is beautiful for right now.
Okay. So I'm going to read off 3 questions. You guys, it's for you to ponder. It's not for you to answer, but think of it as we're doing the deep breaths. Okay. And you can take it with you. You can ponder it. You want to talk about it. You want to reach out. That's fine. If not, that's cool too. So, questions for today on this topic. Where am I pushing when what's needed is patience? What has this person experienced that created their view or values? Again, not judging, not expecting, and you don't even need an answer. Just being curious is enough. What have I experienced that created my views and values? And that one's huge. And that I talked with a client about a lot. And it was a family member, and it was like, what did that person experience based on, and what did you experience? So, in comparison,
Mm-hmm.
what did they experience? What did you experience? And when we talked it out, it was completely different.
Yeah,
Completely different. The other person would not know what you're feeling because they've never experienced that.
absolutely.
And if that's where you got your values, pulled your values from, how can you expect them to understand your values?
Yeah. We were just talking about something the other day, and you were like, I have zero recollection of that. And I was like, and it was a foundational moment for me.
Mm-hmm.
Completely different experiences of the experience, which just set completely different, thoughts and mindsets. And
Yeah,
yeah. All right,
it's
moment of presence. Let's do
okay.
it.
So, big deep breath in, use whichever question and just kind of think it through, let it sit. So, big deep breath in. Where do I need more patience? Where should I listen more? And then exhale. And then big deep breath in. And exhale. And deep breath in. And exhale. And just ask yourself that question a couple times a day for the next couple days and just see what answers come up for you. It's not a right or wrong thing. It's just allowing the answers to rise from deep within your subconscious. So, uh, Substack.com. Do we have that
Mm-hmm.
lovely link? Because there will be more on this topic. I'm gonna actually, I have a little story to share that I'm gonna send out in there. It's on Substack. Substack.com. I can't say it that fast. And yeah, just definitely send this out to anyone that may be struggling with, you know, family, friends, any kind of relationships that, are having a hard time because they're not seeing eye to eye. We don't have to see through other people's eyes. That's not going to really happen, but we can definitely listen and allow them to share and respect where they're coming from. That's all. Just respect it, right or wrong. You don't have to agree with it. You just respect that they're a human being and they have they bring their own experiences to the table. Maybe if you listen, there may be some learning in there as well. And if they listen, from your example of how well you listen, maybe they'll learn something as you plant your little seeds. So, um, yeah, we all have choices. Listen, talk over people. Totally up to you. It can be a good day, a bad day, good relationship, or not so good. All depends on you, and you can choose whichever one you want. So, choose wisely, and we'll see you next week.
We sure will. Bye, guys.